Rob. You know who's not working? Kevin Durant, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, Devin Booker. The big four, if you will, the core four, if you will, in what would have been a big game, the Lakers and the Phoenix Suns, but now should be. I mean, we'll see. We thought this would be the case when they just edged Utah in overtime a few games ago, but should be just kind of a scrimmage for the Lakers as they'll face the Phoenix Suns B team tonight in a big game. If the Lakers lose, they're almost assured to be in the play-in. They win, and they've got keep their hopes alive of reaching that top six and being in the playoffs without having to go through the one-and-done tourney, if you will, that is the play-in. So, Rob, let me ask you this. Do you think the Phoenix Suns, who are locked in the fourth spot, are they making a mistake by resting their guys? Because remember, Kevin Durant has played, 8 games, I think, with the team. They're 8-0 now. They look good when he plays, but they're just 8. He's only played 8 games with his new team. And last night, they actually they had a tough game against Denver, which rested all of its top players, and they still barely edged them. So do you think they should rest them or play them more to just keep
No, I think they're afraid, and that's probably why with some older players. Obviously, you think that the logical thing would be to play, right, and try to get that, but they're figuring, like, we don't need any more chemistry. Kevin Durant, when he plays, that we're 8-0, and he's not the kind of player that needs to be worked in because he can seem to operate with everybody. So I'm just disappointed that this was supposed to be – the play-in was supposed to make the games at the end like, oh, yeah, we can't wait to watch the final game. Who's going to make it in? Who's going to do this? And all we're seeing now is nobody playing. This is disappointing. It really is.
I think the play-in has helped like the last week or two leading up to tonight. Like we have, it has created some real intrigue and drama. Dallas, obviously.
But they have a chance to make it.
I'm saying this tonight and the previous, the last week or two. I mean, it's been interesting to me to see who's going to, finish where. And I do think teams have been going for it. But tonight, certainly that isn't the case. And Phoenix is, they're relaxing. I hear you. I mean, look, they are certainly not in danger of losing Kevin Durant or Chris Paul or even any of the other two guys who aren't nearly as injury prone by not playing them tonight. That certainly, remember, Kevin Durant got hurt just warming up. So I guess you can argue that point, but I think they've still only played 8 games, Rob. And I get that, they've looked good and they're 8-0 in those games. But I would, if I were in their shoes, it's hard to say, but I feel like I would play these guys because they didn't look very good last night. And I get it. It's a back-to-back that now, Rob, it's almost like you got to wonder, do they get it in their head too much? Oh, it's a back-to-back. I might get hurt.
That's crazy, Chris.
I'm going to wear myself out. You know what I mean? Like, it's right. It's just, but look, they beat Denver 119-115 last night. Again, Denver, no Jamal Murray, no Nikola Jokic, no Michael Porter Jr., no Aaron Gordon. They just rested everybody. And they still struggled to beat them. Obviously, they're much better than Denver's B team, but my point is just that I would have liked to have seen, them continue to play well. Chris Paul, Rob, who did have a huge game last night, hit 7 3-pointers, 25 points. He's playing differently now. Like he said, he's off the ball more than usual. According to him, more than ever. I know he was off the ball a good amount when he played in Houston with James Harden. but he's off the ball quite a bit now. He said he's getting so many open looks because Rob, sometimes they're double teaming Devin Booker. And so Chris Paul is getting these open looks. You look last night, he hit 7 3-pointers. That's a career high. A lot of them, he was wide
open, nobody in his way.
Right. And so those are some of the little things. Look, they're obviously professionals. They're, some of the smartest players in the league as far as, Durant and Chris Paul. They have played a few games together and they haven't lost. But I just think, Rob, they're going to go into the playoffs with 8 or 9 games together. Not that there's a huge difference with 10, but I would have liked to have seen them just keep playing.
I agree. It's disappointing that they don't seem to care about those things, Chris, like building chemistry. Just play it out. Like you haven't played that often, haven't played nearly enough to feel like, okay, going in, we're good to go. And they just decide that it's not that important. I think it's surprising that we've reached this point, and to me, in sports. It's just it's surprising.
Certainly the NBA. And Rob, it leads us, and we've talked briefly about this, but we mentioned how in the new CBA, the players are going to have to play 65 games at least to be eligible for postseason or regular season awards. I'm actually going to sit down tomorrow and do my ballots. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of guys that, win awards that didn't play 65 games. Charles Barkley last night, Rob, he made an interesting point about it. We heard what Draymond said, like, some guys won't make the 65 games, some of the top players. So you'll have guys that aren't deserving or worthy or that caliber make all NBA. Barkley said this, Rob. He said now it's going to become a 65-game season for a lot of guys. Like they're going to play 65.
Right. They basically told you got how many games is that?
82, 17.
17. You got 17 games off. That's what they just told you.
Yeah, and I don't think they meant it that way.
No, but that's what it could.
But I think Barkley's right. Like a lot of dudes are going to be like, I'm going to play 65.
I got a 17-game. The league gave me a 17-game window.
Yep.
They're actually going to have people missing more games than they did, Chris, without the rule.
At least you might have had a guy play 70. 70 would have been interesting. And I get, look, somebody might get hurt, right?
But if somebody's hurt, that's different. But the league,
and
I don't know.
It wouldn't have mattered. I don't think. There are were some loopholes. I don't know if it would have mattered. But Rob, generally, if you get hurt, like for instance, Kevin Durant, this year is going to play about 40 games or so total. A little more than 40 games, I think. He's not going to make the all-NBA teams, not because there's a rule against it.
He didn't play enough.
Yeah, he just didn't play enough. So I think Barkley made an interesting point, Rob. And
I think he made a really good point, to be honest. I think that the league didn't – I don't know. Did they really think about it? Because when we first talked about it, Chris, I wasn't even thinking about that.
The guys might just set that as their target.
There's my target now. Now I know how many games I need to play in the season. That's 65.
Yeah. I didn't really think of it too. I liked it, and I still, I guess, like it, but because you would rather guys play at least 65 rather than 55.
But nobody's playing that few though. Like really.
I'm looking at the league's top scorers right now. Joel Embiid, 66 games. Luka, 65. Lillard, 58. Now, Lillard, I know their team was bad, but he's got a shot at making some All-NBA teams. But he's healthy right now. I'm sure he'd be fine playing, but, his team shut him down. Giannis, Rob, 63 games.
So he doesn't count for anything.
He wouldn't have made it. He will, this year, fortunately. For him, Kyrie probably won't make any all NBA teams, but he's only played 60. Ja Morant's only played 60. So I guess you go by that. that guys aren't really playing 65 anyway. 70 would have been nice, but I do think I would have left a lot of guys off that, I mean, it's just changed, Rob. It's unfortunate. Like 10 years ago, maybe not even 10 years ago, playing 67 games would have been like, man, he missed a lot of games. Now it's viewed as he played basically the whole season. Because that's what most guys are in the high 60s, the stars at least. So it's just, Rob, and I get it. This is the end in the recent years, even though Jordan and those guys didn't do it. And I don't want to be the old man, get off my lawn.
Right.
But, they would play the last game, right? They play 82 if they could. And we've come to accept the last week of the season, teams might rest the guy here or there. But this is interesting because you do have now the play-in, to your point earlier. Phoenix could not, they could meet the Lakers in that 4-5 matchup. And I think Phoenix is confident. Obviously, they're capable of beating the Lakers. But if I'm Phoenix, I mean, I'm not necessarily trying to play Anthony Davis and LeBron in the first round. They could, if they beat them tonight, they could almost assure themselves of not having to meet the Lakers. And it doesn't matter to them.
It doesn't matter. That's the thing that is surprising, that they just decide, well, we don't care. Anything that we can do to not play these guys. And I don't know, is it just the injury or just the idea of injury or what would be the only other reason that they wouldn't play, Chris? Is it just the injury or timing? Time off.
I think, like you said, it's and look, Chris Paul be 38.
It's like saving their legs, right?
Yeah. But Durant's the one, right? If you want to rest Chris Paul, we get it. We're not just, robots saying play. We get it. He's an older player. LeBron's an older player. Okay. But Durant, we get Durant's injured. But Rob, we've said it before, like with Zion. At some point, you might just have to be like, you know what? If he was going to get injured.
He's going to get injured anyway.
Right. He'd have went out there the next game he plays and got injured. I mean, Durant got hurt literally in warmups. So anytime he steps on the floor, he could get injured.